Hello and welcome. My name is Megan Lucky, and this is A Lucky Life. Come along with me as I try and get to know myself better and hopefully help you get to know yourself better too. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to A Lucky Life. My guest today is Kayle Ersek. He is a relationship coach and the founder of the Dating Collective, and his whole focus is helping people understand why they keep repeating the same patterns in their relationships and how to actually break the cycle. He comes at this from the nervous system perspective and self-trust angle, not just dating tricks, which is why I wanted him on. So Kayle, thank you so much for being here. And if you wouldn't mind, I would love if you could start us off by telling us a little bit more about you and the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Seriously, so excited to be here. I started this entire journey, honestly, as kind of a cliche dating coach. It's what I thought people wanted, and it's what I thought people needed, actually. I started making a couple of videos about like my dating experience because, for better or worse, I had a lot of failure. And a couple of videos went viral on social media, as they do for no reason. And I was like, oh, I have a lot of experience that maybe people could benefit from. And so started into that, recognized that the dating advice doesn't actually help, to be honest with you. It's a lot of mantras. It's a lot of feel good stuff that doesn't result in a lot of actual change. And so I went through some pretty serious stuff in my own life that made me really reflect and change the core patterns of things. And then obviously I wanted to expand that and actually change people's lives. So I naturally fell into coaching, specifically coaching women. And so I try to focus on nervous system regulation, which basically means being able to build the capacity in your body so you don't just react to every single situation the way that you always have, and you start responding from self-worth. So that is what I do in my mission.
That's amazing. And I already am like having so many things that I would love to pick your brain about. But I did kind of want to focus today on what it means to show up authentically in dating and relationships. And I guess I think a lot of people don't even know what that means and like assume they're already showing up authentically. So to you, how do you define that? Like, what does dating authentically mean? And what's a hard truth about it that people don't want to hear?
Authentic dating is 100% being able to let somebody meet the real you before you know whether or not they'll actually stay. I think that's like kind of the foundation of all of it. And the hard truth about this is that people resist, like they resist the authenticity, right? Because authenticity so often is seen or projected as a strategy, right? And what it is a strategy to be chosen. And so I guess authenticity, there is so much disingenuousness there. And so most people want to be themselves and still keep the guarantee that they'll be picked, right? And the hard truth about that is that you just can't have both. So I used to think that being authentic for the sake of authentic was the only way. Just be you. But what if who you are has a foundation of some trauma or, again, bad patterns or habitual survival mechanisms that don't serve who you're trying to be? I used to argue tooth and nail, die on this hill, be authentic. Just do what you would always do. Well, what if what you do is rooted in fear? And what if what you do is the way that you learned how to survive love growing up? It's like these things don't always serve us as we grow and as we heal and as we mature and recognize these things. So yeah, authenticity for me even has changed over like the last couple of years because again, I used to just say it blankly, and authenticity is very nuanced in what that actually is.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good way to put it because I agree there's like a world out there, especially on social media, that people feel like they have to choose, like, just be yourself and take it or leave it, like when it comes to dating. However, it is a balance because, of course, like you want to be with someone who accepts you and lets you be yourself, flaws and all. But you also want to never give up on growth and like being a better version of yourself. And that doesn't mean sacrificing authenticity. And I think there's a lot of misinterpretation around that. So I feel like that's such a good point. I know for me, like that was a big reframe in my head over the last like 5-10 years. I used to think that like self-acceptance meant being okay with those flaws and not needing to change them. And I think a lot of people think like that too. And so I resisted all self-acceptance and like self-love because I was like, no, I like need to work on myself. Like I need to change myself. But kind of like what you had said before, like it was rooted in shame and tricks that you see online. It's not from a true place of like, I love myself. I accept myself now, But I want to give myself that gift and to acknowledge, okay, these things in my life do need work. And I want to like build those things and I want to work on myself in that way. But I actually had to practice that self love and self acceptance so that I could work on those things that were more in like more of a lasting way, like a
Yeah.
something that actually stuck.
Yeah. The acceptance part is really big, but I think it's part of like 3 stages of forgiveness: awareness, acceptance, and forgiveness.
Mm,
And so I think so much of how we've learned to be in relationships is a reflection of how we had to be previously. And I think awareness is where that starts. Hey, something needs to change. And then accepting, which is where the shame comes in, it prevents us from actually doing this, is like, I know why I did it, and that's okay. Most
yeah.
people say like, "Oh, I wish I would have. I wish I should have done." Yeah, you should have, but you didn't. Is that true acceptance if you're constantly looking back with regret? But then the other part of it is forgiveness. And that's basically just looking at that version of you that got you where you are. Thank you. Thank you so much, right? Like maybe we didn't do it right, but you were doing the best you could. I forgive that. And also, I, I release that. I give you permission to not be there anymore because I got this, right? I know how to actually live and experience life now. And I think something that gets conflated a lot, to go back to the authenticity thing, is authenticity and identity. Who are you outside of a relationship? Like, if you don't have that and if you don't know the value of that person, you're basically always going to be outsourcing that validation.
Mhm.
I think this is great about me until you don't. And now I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So again, establishing most of the men that I work with, I do primarily work with women, but the men I work with, we focus a lot of it on identity because societally we are projected, be authentic, but also say this, text this, don't do
Yeah.
this, wait
Yeah.
this long. I
Yeah.
don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Well, be authentic,
Yeah.
but also
It's
follow my instructions.
it's like contradictory. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So much contradiction. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
think
am so glad I'm not in that world anymore.
I know, I know. It's so hard. It really feels like, I mean, I'm not in that world right now either, but like dating in general and relationships. I do think it still continues on. And I know that you speak to both being in a relationship that exists and being authentic and showing up authentically and working on your patterns, but also like when you're looking for a relationship and like aligning with the right person. So, as we said, there's always like things that we can work on and to be better and show up better. And of course, there are parts of us that are like core to us and that really are our authentic selves. So, at what point do you think people start learning to perform in relationships instead of just being true to themselves and those core pieces of themselves? And why do so many people become who they think the other person wants?
Yeah. So I guess super vulnerable question here. Growing up as a child, do you have any specific memories of being this wide-eyed, hopeful girl and essentially wanting some kind of care and affection from your parents, and you weren't met with exactly what you wanted?
Yes. And I definitely see that currently show up, and it's something I'm
You've
working.
already connected where I'm going,
I am
right?
already connected. Yes. But
So
continue, please.
no, it's again, survival mechanisms, right? When we're children and when we're super bold and vulnerable with all this stuff because we haven't necessarily felt the pain of the world, we go ambitiously and authentically into what we want. And when we aren't met with that, we learn to adapt and we learn to adjust. So a lot of the times, and a lot of the women that I work with in some dynamic, and it's not, I don't like putting the label of like daddy issues. I hate that. And
Yeah.
it's such an element of shame. But in an environment where you were highly impressionable, you wanted love and you weren't given it the way that you were expected. And so the way that you ended up getting affection, not necessarily love, is through performance. And you had to do something opposite of what you wanted to do because love should be unconditional, especially in that environment, right? There's nothing that you should be feeling like you need to do to earn it. But in that moment, oh, wait, when I want it, I'm not met with it. When I stay quiet, they say thank you. Wait, so that means I stay quiet. That leads to love equals sacrifice because what I wanted is this, but wanting that hurts. So I'm going to do this instead. You develop a survival mechanism.
It's almost like instead of, you know, how we're talking about like growing into like the best version of you that serves you, it's almost like reverting back to that pure place of yourself when you were that kid before you had to learn how to perform, to do and give yourself what you want. I completely like resonate deeply with this. And I think a lot of what I'm working on still right now is learning like what were those needs that I had as a kid that weren't met that I now have to learn how to give myself so that I'm not like self-sabotaging in my relationships because you're giving so much power away when you, like you said before, like when you seek that validation from your partner or the other person by using those old coping mechanisms and strategies that used to get you that approval. That's like, I feel like that's so important. And people don't fully understand or they're not aware of how those patterns come out. So, how do you help people become aware of those patterns and see
Yeah.
how they're like sacrificing their power and sacrificing their authenticity in order to be chosen or get that love and approval that maybe has stemmed from this like broken place instead of this authentic, genuine, higher self place?
Yeah. I'm going to answer that question by tying back in something full circle. When we talk about the aspect of awareness, acceptance, and forgiveness, part of the reason that you are hesitant to move to that is because that girl or that person that got you here, technically, once you start to recognize it, it feels like betrayal. You recognize the survival mechanisms that she had developed didn't serve who you're trying to be. And so there's a hesitation to be stuck in this place because you haven't forgiven them for doing the best that they could. And all you see is the shame of all the wrong decisions,
Right.
which leads to no self trust. And so it's like, I want to make this choice, but I don't trust in my ability to do it or to handle it if I'm wrong. Hey, I want to present my authentic self, but last time I did, I got hurt. And I don't know if I can handle that. So I'm going to do what I've always done. Even when you know that you want to do it, the survival mechanism takes over. And so to move forward into that, the first step, for better or for worse, is awareness. It's everything starts there. You have to know that there's a problem. You don't even necessarily need to know what it is. You
Hmm.
need to acknowledge this isn't serving me.
Yeah.
That is fundamental for any amount of growth. Hey, I need to go somewhere else. Cool. And so once you get there, it's recognizing where it is. But so many women that I work with, I'm literally part of everything that I do. I teach the awareness trap. I am trademarking that, but it's called the awareness trap, where it's I know, I know, I know. I know narcissism, love bombing, anxious, attachment, like all of this stuff. And I still get triggered and I revert back to who I was. Why can't I just do what
Yeah.
I know?
I am like that
And
with the intellectualizing part. Like, yeah.
it's your worst enemy because you understand it cognitively, but the patterns that we're talking about, they don't live in your brain. Your brain is constantly growing and moving forward. Your body is stuck in the pattern. And so you need to be able to essentially integrate what you know into how you are. And until you can do that, you're going to be in that awareness trap. And then you're going to consume social media and yeah, you're going to consume content. You're going to be like, wow, that's so me. And then the shame follows. Hey, they told me to set a boundary and I'll be more secure. But I set the boundary, they didn't respond, and then I self abandoned and I gave it anyway. Damn it. I'm so ashamed of myself.
Yes. It's a spiral. It keeps coming back.
And for overthinkers like us, overthought and shame feels like movement. It feels like we're doing something if we're just really
Hold my
hard on
hand
ourselves.
before you say that.
It feels like we're doing something and we're being productive because if we just shame ourselves enough, then we'll learn. But again, imagine that you're talking to a friend or, a sibling or even your child. You wouldn't look at her and be like, hey, how dare you? You should have done better. This is what happened.
Yeah.
Accept it. How can we do better?
Yeah. I'm actually reading right now. This is just like crazy timing. I'm reading Forgive for Good. Do you know that?
Hmm. I do not.
A lot of what you're saying is echoed in it. It talks about like the process of forgiveness and the steps, like becoming aware of like what the hurt actually is such an important part of moving on and being able to forgive if that's what you choose to do. And that is something I also think it's hard to identify. Like, and I think it's interesting that you said you don't have to exactly know what it or why, I think you said. You have to like become aware that there is the problem, like that there is the pattern there. And I think that's so interesting. And as I am doing my own work on this, like I'm doing EMDR therapy, which is like helping me kind of
Love
like,
it.
yeah, and it's helping me kind of go back to that child. And I'll share this little experience because I went back there in my head like that little child, that version of me that didn't have the tools that I do now, that didn't have the ability to remove those coping mechanisms or like deal with that situation in any other way. So going back to her, like in my head, I got really stuck because I was like, what do you need? And like, I had a hard time, like, I don't know. And so that, like, was, like, the first hump for me, and I had to keep trying, and a lot of it was, like, I needed to sit with her and feel her pain and be there with her, and I haven't done that enough. I feel like even in today's day and age, like, I move so fast, like, there's so many things happening and we're moving forward, and I think, like you said, I do that, like, feel like I'm moving forward by overthinking, but it's not really helping me move forward.
And enough is subjective.
Yeah.
High achievers set arbitrary finish lines, get there, and then move it. And essentially, the same way in which we are developed in earning love, we try to earn our healing. If I do more, then I can earn this idea or this perception of myself.
Mhm.
But again, the thing about it and the thing about love and self acceptance is acceptance. You look and you say, I see, I'm here. There's no big grand moment that just says, you're healed, right? And like healing is linear. And even in the aspect of moving forward, it's not that you're like, I teach nervous system regulation. I get dysregulated
Yeah,
often.
of course, of course. Yeah, 'cause you're
Capacity.
human. Yeah, yeah.
All right. I have this moment with my girlfriend and I'm feeling or sensing an energy, and it was a long day for her, a long day for me. And my survival used to be cling, right? I am the anxious and it's, I need more, I need more, I need more. And instead, now I recognize what's happening. I give it grace and understanding and I communicate, hey, I'm feeling this way. I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to know. Right. And then she's like, what can I do? I'm like, I'm okay, genuinely. But I would love if we could have just like a moment together, right? Just like a 30-second hug or just like hold my hand for a second. And instead of the anxiousness of coming and just saying, this is my problem, deal with it.
Yes,
Again,
yes,
you're outsourcing.
yes.
It's this is my problem. I got this. Could
Mhm.
I get your help?
Yes, it's like it's such a different proposition. I also think, like, yeah, coming at it from the awareness of what your true needs are, and then meeting them yourself first instead of relying on that person. Then you don't respond, like, if that person doesn't respond well because you're coming from a place of anxiety or this
Capacity.
hurt. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
They don't have the capacity to
Right.
yeah.
So, like, then you're gonna judge them or think maybe they're the wrong person, and then you'll start that cycle, I feel like, of, like, cycling through relationships because you're expecting these.
But Megan, I was just being my authentic self.
Yeah, exactly, but, like, yeah, that's why it's toxic.
But wait, I was just expressing exactly how I felt in this moment.
Well,
How is
for
that not authentic?
yeah, I mean, like, it's not authentic because it's coming from that unhealed part of you, but
And it's you can absolutely accept and acknowledge that.
right.
Again, I always
And
say
you're gonna
people
grow
ever
with the person regardless, like, there's your yeah.
absolutely. And again, the relationship you're in is a direct reflection of your ability to love yourself. That's a
Mhm.
really cliche thing,
I
a
think
really
but it's
cliche
also
thing.
when I heard that, I was like, "Oh my god, that
Yeah.
is."
I mean, when yeah, put that as a reflection. If I say that, are you really proud of the relationship you're in? Or
Yeah,
are you not?
yeah.
Right? And it's like, that's a really, really good contrast of where it might be lacking because, again, if you're always outsourcing and you feel like you're starving without them, you don't know how to feed yourself. But then you also subject yourself to being breadcrumbed, as they say, because everything feels like a meal when you've been starving. You don't need somebody to feed you. You need somebody to sit down at the dinner table with their own meal and say, hey, can we eat together?
Yeah. Can we talk about that a little bit? I think
Yes, we can.
that's such a good topic because I sometimes I guess I question, like, if you are with someone who isn't abusive and they everybody has their own stuff, but how do you know, like, or how do you advise people to know if a relationship is right for them? Like, obviously we can't be 100% healed, but how do you know when you are showing up, you're both doing your best. You might still be here and there, like, having those friction moments where you both are dysregulated or you show up and, like, have those moments. But when do standards come in, I guess, is what I'm asking.
So, my main thing that I would emphasize for people is how does your body feel around them?
Okay.
And what I teach, and the reason that I teach nervous system regulation is because your body responds first, meaning there's a trigger, they pull away, they say something, they're aggressive, whatever that is. You feel it in your body,
Yeah.
tight chest, pit in your stomach. You feel a wave of anxiety, you feel something in your body. Your brain jumps in and says, I know this feeling. This means this. And then the behavior that follows is as though that story is a truth. It's not like an interpretation. It's not a what if they're pulling away. It's they
Yeah.
are pulling away.
Self-trust too.
I exactly. I need to do something about that. And then the behavior reinforces the story. I need to chase. I need to self abandon. I'm about to get hurt, so I need to pull away first. There's a behavior. That's the survival mechanism. But then when you do all this, the result of all this is that, wow, I can stay quiet. I can self abandon or I can chase, and then it still feels like it's not good enough.
Yeah.
I must really not be good enough. And so this entire cycle basically plays out, and it's the pattern that I keep referencing. It's this cycle that keeps playing, and it's been running uninhibited for years and years and years of your life. And so what I always try to get people to do is be in tune with your body first, because even the emotions are temporary, right? It's like, oh, I feel this. Great. That feeling might change. And that doesn't mean that it was invalid. It means that maybe that feeling even was rooted in hurt or trauma or pain. And do we need to feed that feeling just because we had it? No, we can acknowledge it, let it pass. And so my main thing is your body will genuinely feel love and feel comfort and the epitome of safety. If you are constantly feeling your body be triggered, there's a very good chance that you are in an environment that is triggering naturally.
Right.
And then it's not your job to just regulate more. Sometimes it is the best thing for you to just remove yourself from this triggering environment. So my main thing is love and capacity and whether or not the relationship's right. How
Right.
does your body feel? When's the last time you actually felt or acknowledged this feeling in your body?
Right. And I think it's also like if you aren't sure and if you don't know how to read your body signals, because I think that's something that I used to experience. Like I think because I knew I had a lot of work to do on myself or I had a lot of my own triggers that I wasn't managing, that I was confused. I didn't know what my body was saying. Like I couldn't listen to it. And until I started some of this work that we were just talking about, to also develop that self trust. Like, I think I have such a susceptibility to doubting my own intuition and doubting myself. And that is something that I really, really had to like work on so that I can identify the triggers in my environment and also like, yeah, some of my own patterns so that I can do something to change them. So when you're not clear, it's like, let's pull inward a little bit and see what's going on here first. And then once you start developing that self trust and awareness, you'll start to be more aware. Like you'll start to be able to like see how your body feels because you're doing that work to trust how your body feels and be aware of what those signals are, you know?
Yeah. Just just giving yourself the grace and the acknowledgement of when you are triggering and when you do choose differently. Because wiring is the thing, the way our brains, like you're doing EMDR, the way that our brains are wired, neuroplasticity, you were wired in a certain way to survive a certain environment. That environment can go, but the wiring stays. But the way to redo that is micro moments of different decisions. And so it's not this grand, oh, I'm going to be healed, or it's not this huge moment where it's like, oh, I ended a relationship. It's little moments of self trust and reinforcing the person or the woman that you're trying to be.
Right.
Hey, what would she do right now? She wouldn't actually just react. She wouldn't react and crumble. She would hold and self respect. Okay. What does that look like right now? Hey, I'm not going to go out tonight. I just need a me night.
Yeah.
That's self trust.
Yeah. And I think I'm also understanding more about what you said earlier. You don't have to know why you're triggered necessarily, but you have to know when
Yeah.
and like and be able to like acknowledge, oh, I'm triggered. Oh, here's a pattern coming up so that
Hmm.
you can then deal with it accordingly. Because if you don't,
That
you'll
that moment for you, my coaching came out and like my brain just buzzed just seeing you have that kind of recognition of
yes.
it's because it's all in hindsight.
Yeah.
Right? And if you get halfway, like, through that entire loop, it's way too late and you're trying to change the story. People say, "Just change how you talk to yourself." That's a reaction. How can I change my reaction? Because reaction isn't conscious, right? But if you build the capacity between the actual sensation and the story to sit in the discomfort, "Wait, I know I'm triggered.
Yeah.
Now what? Okay, this happened here. What do I do now?" Well, before I was doing this, but now I don't need to. Okay. I have so many other options. I had a conversation literally this morning and I was like, hey, what does this look 3 months from now? She was like, I don't know. I'm like, we are so stuck in this survival mode. We don't see or recognize that there are other choices, that there's other options.
Yeah. I
It's just
feel
how I
like
am.
and, like, going back to nervous system regulation, like, I feel like that has such a big piece of it, like slowing down enough too to be able to be aware. Because I think when you're just like in survival mode and always just trying to like stay afloat, get to the next thing, you can't have that foresight.
Yeah.
You can't have that awareness.
But you're outsourcing the safety too. Like the reality is that people that have been surviving are really, really good at surviving.
Yeah.
You're really, really good at treading water. And the only time that you feel relief is the temporary validation of somebody else. And that's like a piece of wood that's drifting. And you're like, wait, I feel comfort. I can actually catch my breath. And then you become reliant on that. But there's this recognition of this moment that the land you're looking for is directly where you are. And if you simply stand and curate that safety, you can choose differently instead of reacting the same. So, yeah, you get out of survival.
Yeah. And like you said, I feel like in those moments where you have been triggered in the past and reacted to those triggers and you start showing up a little bit differently with that awareness and tools that you've hopefully started to develop, I think then building that consistency, like it might not ever be perfect. And that's,
It's
like
not.
we're gonna get triggered. Like that, unfortunately, you can work on it and get better, but like it's a part of, a lot of
Yeah,
people's existence. But the more that you start to show up a little bit differently, I think, like you said, like the more you develop that self-trust because you're showing yourself that you can be different and you're showing yourself that like, no, this is true to me. So that when you do, respond differently and you see how your partner reacts or the person that you're evaluating, right? Like, is this relationship safe? Is this feel good? Like, I think that's when you'll have more clarity. Like you'll have more clarity because I've been showing up good. And if you don't feel good still, and if you feel like you're still getting constantly triggered, even though like you keep showing up, yeah, like maybe that's when,
contrast creates clarity.
yes,
Yeah, contrast creates clarity. I'm gonna speak directly to the incredibly smart, highly intellectual woman. You have to be able to give yourself grace and also be able to congratulate and be proud of yourself for those moments instead of focusing on what you didn't do. Because a lot of times it takes somebody even externally pointing up a mirror to be like, "Did you see what you just didn't do?" Because they don't perceive that as success. They don't even recognize the things that they're doing well because they're so focused on this. I literally had a conversation. She's like, "I talked to my ex-husband. He did this." And I was like, "This you made this seem like such a small moment. Like he pushed you, he tried to manipulate you, you stayed grounded, I'm like, "Do you not see this?" She's like, "Well, I guess I did." I'm like, "This is such a huge moment." I was like, "Do you understand what you've done for 30 years before that?" She's like, "Oh, well, I would self-abandon, get small, apologize." I was like, "You need to see, like, you were not just writing a line. You did, like, definitively took a step towards the woman that you want to be." But because she's such a high achiever, she doesn't give herself credit for that.
in general, it's also, I think, genuinely like being proud of yourself and being grateful for the progress that you make is so much different than like being cocky or being like arrogant or like thinking you don't need to grow anymore. And I think also like in today's society, like we think that giving ourselves that credit like makes us, especially with women, I feel like it's like we're not allowed, like we have to be humble. We're not allowed to like,
Completely agree with you.
yeah, like we need to be like proud of ourselves. We need to look back and acknowledge our progress because also like that's how you make more of it. Like you say,
Yeah,
I did that. I
yeah.
did that. Like it's great to
But
acknowledge.
also, if it comes to any kind of dating situation and some guy's trying to give you less than what you know that you deserve and you tell him to fuck off, I mean, absolutely have an ego there.
Yes,
I
yes,
mean,
you're right.
again, you're standing up for, again, when we talk about that version of you, that
Yeah,
little girl,
yeah,
you're advocating for her. And that should be something that, yeah, stand on business.
yes.
Absolutely. And if he
I love
thinks you have an ego, fuck him. Like, so
it. Are you familiar with IFS at all, like internal family systems?
a little bit, yes.
It's It's something I'm also just starting to learn more about and like how like there's different parts of us that are basically representative of those patterns. And like this part of me that like has shown up anxiously is that little girl that you were talking about. And like when I was doing EMDR, like asking this little version of me who's like angry and like just wants so badly to like be seen and valued and acknowledged. I'm like, what do you want? Like, what does this part of me want? Because that's who it is that's coming up when I'm triggered and when I'm reacting. And like you said, I feel like I'm just literally reiterating what you said, but like giving that version of yourself permission to take a seat and say, I got this. Like, thank you. And acknowledging, like, I know that purpose. So you don't have that shame anymore. Because I feel like there's a cycle of like, I would get triggered and then I would feel shame of how I reacted. So much so that I wouldn't want to truly acknowledge the actual pattern that I was presenting. And so I had to show her empathy. I had to show her love. I had to understand why. And she was trying to protect me and say, like, thank you. I got it from here. Let's do it together. Like, and because it is for her. It's just that pattern. It's that cycle that is so hard to break. And you can't get out of it until you give yourself a little bit of that love and acceptance and understanding.
And the trust to be seen. Again, I always say love requires you to be seen. If you don't feel seen in your relationship, it probably isn't authentically you. I know we're using authentic,
No, they're just
but
the whole point.
also you've probably learned how to survive through the performative love. And again, you're performing security, you're performing boundaries. I was told to do this, so I did it. It's all performance, but it's not you. And love requires you to be seen. But then you realize that there's this discrepancy in relationships where it says they don't care for me well. They're caring for all of you that you're willing to show them because you've learned how to keep a lot of you like
Yeah,
off stage,
right.
right? The real you is still back there saying, love me. And it's like, I haven't seen you,
Yeah.
right? I'm loving everything that you're showing me, but I know that there's more. And so
Yeah.
love always requires you to be seen. Obviously, it's the boldness and the self trust to allow yourself to be seen. And I know seen gets downplayed as a simple word, but I think the people that get seen, like the people that get it, they get
Yeah,
it.
I get it. I definitely get it. And I also think like in general with my own related and unrelated like growth journeys, what resonates. Go with it. Like if that's that word seen or if it's like
Yeah.
something else, like find your own word because what's true to you will feel true to you. But I know like it's becoming aware of these patterns, I think is like the biggest first major step. And uh, I guess my question is once someone becomes aware of these patterns, how can they start evaluating things differently, whether they're dating, looking for a partner, or already in a relationship? What are some signs that they are starting to show up more authentically, like, and feel that trust and feel that confident when they are either in existing relationships or in new relationships?
Yeah. Self abandonment is probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
Being able to say what you mean and then hold it. And that is one of the biggest reflection again of self trust, identity, self worth, all of these things and everybody that or this person and this woman that you're trying to be. If I can do this and then hold it true, I think that's really, really good evidence of it. And also finding yourself in the right relationship where these things aren't something that you have to enforce. They are just naturally respected.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Hey, I see you, I hear you, I got you,
Yeah.
right? And then it's not pushed and saying, why can't I? Why can't I? If there's defensiveness or doesn't matter. Like the reality is like, this is where my boundary is. And you can choose that or not.
I think like if you're not aware of those patterns, right? If you're starting back at square one, like just from what you see, like what are some of the most common patterns that you say? I know you like touch on like things like over explaining, people pleasing, chasing, shrinking and abandoning ourselves and our needs. Like what do some of those patterns look like and how can you help identify them within yourself? And yeah, I guess we'll leave it at that right now.
Yeah, no, it's okay. You named a lot of them that I end up seeing. A lot of the women that I end up working with are natural caretakers. And again, their value is in what they do. And so sacrifice is kind of their default setting. And naturally, they attract partners that require something of them because it's familiar terrain. Even if cognitively they understand this hurts, it's familiar and that's better than nothing. And so the self abandoning is probably first and foremost, I guess, if we were to put a blanket over kind of how a lot of them show up. Hey, I need this. I can't do that. Okay, never mind. Self abandoning. And that's how we just learn to keep the connection because having a sliver of a connection is better than being alone. Because again, it's a reflection of our ability to love ourselves. We don't love ourselves that very much. So why would we want to be alone? I don't see the value in that. And so we start outsourcing all of this other stuff. And so I would say the biggest one again is self abandonment.
Again, like to become aware that you're doing that, I feel like it's just you'll know. Like there's something that
Yeah, I guess that is one thing that you asked. And that's where you know what's happening based on a body response.
okay, yeah.
Okay. So that's the very first part of awareness. One, you know something isn't right. Great. That's an amazing place to start. And then it's what do we do about it? Okay, well, I'm starting to recognize there's a trigger. And again, I name these literally as a 5-step pattern: trigger, sensation, story, behavior, result. And so, trigger, you can't control. If you're trying to control a trigger, you're trying to control somebody else. You can't control what somebody else does to you. You can obviously change how you react. But then, even your body response, that's something that your body has learned. It's going to react. So, that pit in your stomach, tightness in your chest, you need to be aware of what this is. Sometimes people get flushed, their hands go numb. Sometimes feeling nothing is also a survival mechanism.
Mm,
A lot of women that I talk to, I can see when they're in overload and they just disassociate.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you find yourself saying, I don't know,
yeah,
you probably do, but there's probably something that you're more afraid of facing
yeah,
than what the survival mechanism is triggering. And so there's a sensation and then again there's a story. And if you're already at the story and it's like, hey, I'm telling myself this, say something else, the body's already reacting and then you're essentially trying to stop it at the smoke, not the fire. And so if you start to recognize, I feel this and giving yourself permission to feel it and grace and understanding,
yeah,
then you can start to say, why?
yeah,
But if you don't do that, if you don't start to recognize what your body is feeling,
yeah, yeah.
you can't do anything about it.
I feel like so many people like aren't aware of those fears and aren't willing to acknowledge that. Like even hearing you say they know like deep down a lot of these patterns are self-abandonment. A lot of these patterns come from a place of like I don't want to be alone and I'm willing to take these slivers of connection and attention in order to stay in this relationship because I'm afraid of being alone. And I think that's like in society, again, a lot of content that we see is like, you're a strong, independent woman, you don't need a man. And so it's almost like you feel shame if
For
you
wanting,
want a relationship. Yeah. And I think it's so like obviously there's a purpose for it because in history it was like we had to have a relationship. Now we have this, we're empowered to make choices and be able to figure out what's best for us. And sometimes it's a relationship, and sometimes it's being alone, and sometimes it's you need to be alone before you have the right relationship. So I feel like sometimes also social media can be the like, you know, how we talk about removing yourself from maybe it's a harmful relationship or a triggering environment. Sometimes social media is that triggering environment. And I think it keeps us in our shame
completely agreeing.
spiral.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's the awareness. I need to gather enough information and then I'll be different. If you don't know how to implement what you know, it's worthless knowledge.
I feel like I need to take a step away from social media. Sometimes I'll go like cold turkey and then I'll come back to it because I really do think like when you have a chance to remove yourself from triggering environments, which not everybody can. I do think there are some environments like whether it's your children or like you have response to your job, you have like responsibilities like that you can't leave for whatever reason. You have a different challenge to kind of learn how to regulate within those environments sometimes and slow down within those environments. Like, do you have tips for people who can't remove themselves from triggering environments, at least for the time being?
No, I think a big aspect of it, especially when it comes to, I do work with a lot of mothers and they have put their stake on, I am a mother. You are not just a mother. You are a human. You deserve to be happy. And not only that, but your kids will be happier as an extension of your happiness. And I've had so many people that have gone through years and years of marriages, and then they get out and they said, oh, I did what I need to do, or I did what I had to do for my kids. But now their kids are grown and they're looking at them like, Mom, I saw that.
Yeah.
Right, and not only that, but that's my identity of love requires sacrifice again, and then it becomes this generational thing. But I have one client that I was working with and her mom says like, "Mom, I need you here with me. I need you present. I don't need you to be so strong," because her perception of strength was keeping the family together. So her identity was sacrifice, and now that she's out of it, now she's like, "I don't know how to advocate for myself." And I don't know how to actually do that. And I'm like, do you understand how that lack of vulnerability is actually creating distance? Your perception of strength is showing nothing. Again, that's a survival mechanism because we are afraid of being seen or being vulnerable and saying, hey, I need this because for 30 years you weren't given that. So you just convince yourself you didn't need it. So I think the biggest thing is, I mean, giving yourself obviously the understanding and the grace. And then, I mean, regulation techniques. There's actually like somatic work, being present with
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
and learning how to embody emotion as opposed to ignoring and pushing away. So embodied emotion, I think, is a really really big aspect of being able to be present with yourself and therefore present in your relationships as well.
Amazing. Well, I feel like we covered so many important, amazing topics today. Thank you so much. I still have so much more to learn and topics that I want to look into that I was just introduced to. So thank you for
Yeah.
that. I would love if you wouldn't mind telling the people where they can find you, because I feel like your content, you are part of the opposite of what we see a lot in dating tips and tricks and authenticity and all these things that like are getting our attention but aren't serving us. So where can the people find you to be a breath of fresh air on their rhythms, as well as if you're, I don't know if you're taking new clients, but
Yeah, always taking new clients.
amazing.
Instagram is probably the easiest one. It's kale.securelove. That is the epitome of what I try to help people achieve, is security in themselves. And therefore, their relationships are an expression of that inner security. Alternatively, you can just go to thesecureloveblueprint.com. I have a free training on there that you are invited to absolutely watch if you want to learn more about what I do and how I do it. But social media, Instagram, kale.securelove, or thesecureloveblueprint.com.
Great. Thank you so much, Kayle. It was a pleasure. I really appreciate you being here, and we will keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Kayle. Hello and welcome. My name is Megan Lucky, and this is A Lucky Life. Come along with me as I try and get to know myself better and hopefully help you get to know yourself better too.